Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons, and love are told that I trudged up the driveway, the hum of my car fading as I stepped into the familiar marble-floored foyer of my house. The trip had been brutal. Endless meetings, late-night flights, and boardroom battles, but I had promised myself I would surprise my family tonight. My briefcase thumped against my leg as I approached the kitchen, anticipating the warm greeting of my son, or, at least, the soft chatter of the house staff. What greeted me instead was a scene that froze me in my tracks. A small, round-faced boy sitting half-naked inside a large silver pot on the stove, steam curling up around him, a medley of fresh vegetables floating in the water. His wide eyes blinked at me, innocent and confused, and my mind struggled to process what I was seeing. The room smelled sharply of herbs, rosemary, thyme, and something earthy I couldn't immediately identify, and my chest tightened as the familiar figure of the maid, who had always managed our household with quiet efficiency, stood nearby. She held Liam carefully, her dark eyes reflecting panic. What is happening? My voice trembled with disbelief, anger, and an unspoken fear. My words came out harsher than I intended. Yvette, why is he in a pot? On the stove? What were you thinking? Yvette flinched, but didn't release my son. Her hands shook ever so slightly as she adjusted him in her arms, and I noticed the fine sheen of sweat on her forehead. Mr. Callahan, she said, using my real last name with careful formality. Please understand. I wasn't hurting him. I was giving him a bath. The pediatrician suggested lukewarm herb baths to soothe the rash he's developed. I used the vegetables and herbs to help calm his skin naturally. I stared at her, the words threatening to tear the room apart. The shock of seeing my son half-naked in a pot clashed violently with my desire to trust her. A bath in a cooking pot. You have to be joking. My voice cracked, the tension pressing down like a weight. I felt the surge of anger rise first, then a hot mix of guilt and disbelief. I had been gone for over a month, jetting across continents, consumed by work, thinking that paying people to care for Liam was enough. And now, confronted with this bizarre yet tender image, the reality of my absence hit me harder than any boardroom loss or failed investment. Yvette's eyes softened, but the urgency remained. I know it looks strange, sir. I know it seems dangerous, but I've been here every day for him since Amelia passed. You were away, and he needed someone to be present. He has been crying for you, and I couldn't leave him in distress. I didn't know how else to soothe him. I've been following the doctor's advice exactly. I promise you I was only trying to help. I sank into a chair, my mind spinning. Her voice, firm yet tender, reminded me of how disconnected I had been, how I had allowed grief and work to keep me from the most essential role of my life, being a father. I thought I was protecting myself by staying away, I admitted, quietly, staring at Liam's small, curious eyes. The innocence in his gaze made the anger evaporate, replaced by an almost unbearable wave of guilt. I thought that if I didn't face it, if I didn't see him, it wouldn't hurt so much. But my throat tightened. But I wasn't protecting him. I was abandoning him. Yvette's expression softened further, but there was no hint of patronizing pity. She knelt beside Liam, carefully lifting him from the pot and wrapping him in a warm towel. You can't undo what's past, sir. But you can start being here now. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need luxury. He needs you. He needs his father. Her voice pierced through the layers of my shame, stripping away the pretenses of wealth, the illusion that I could buy time or affection that I swallowed hard, the weight of realization pressing down. Every missed bedtime, every unreturned call, every fleeting thought that I was too busy had built a wall between me and my son. And now, Yvette, who had never been just a maid, had been the one keeping him alive emotionally, if not entirely physically. My anger dissolved entirely into tears I didn't expect to shed in front of her, or anyone, for that matter. I'm sorry. I've been a terrible father. I thought I was handling things, but I failed him. I failed you too, Yvette. Yvette's hands rested lightly on my shoulder, a quiet reassurance. You can start over, sir. You can choose to. Be here. Don't make him suffer longer because of your pain. I've carried the weight for a month, yes, but it's time he sees his father. You, not the billionaire in the papers, not the man on calls overseas. You. I nodded, still frozen, still processing, but ready to step into the role I had neglected. I reached for Liam, my hands trembling as I held him close, feeling his warmth seep into my chest, grounding me in a way no achievement or fortune ever could. Yvette watched quietly, her gaze a mix of relief and pride. For the first time in weeks, the kitchen didn't feel chaotic. It felt like a threshold, the boundary between past neglect and a chance at redemption. Liam cooed softly against my shoulder, and I whispered, almost to myself, "I'm here now, buddy. I promise I'm here now." Yvette stepped back, giving us space, and for the first time I realized, presence, real presence, was worth more than all the wealth I had amassed. My heart, heavy with grief and guilt, started to untangle, finding its rhythm in the simple warmth of my son's body, his tiny heartbeat syncing with mine. The silver pot, now empty and harmless on the stove, no longer symbolized chaos or danger. Instead, it reminded me of Yvette's dedication, of the unconventional ways love manifests, and of the failures I needed to confront. I had returned home unannounced, expecting perhaps a greeting, maybe a smile, but instead I found truth, a reckoning, and the start of a journey I could no longer avoid. Liam wriggled slightly in my arms, and I laughed quietly through the tears, the absurdity of the pot bath suddenly softening the tension. This was reality, messy, strange, yet profoundly human. Yvette began tidying the kitchen while keeping one eye on us, and I realized that her role had never been just a maid. She had been the bridge, the caretaker, the stabilizing force when I couldn't be. And now, I would have to step up, not with money or gifts, but with time, attention, and love, the things I had been running from, but which mattered more than anything else in the world. That I looked down at Liam again, feeling the weight of every missed moment, and whispered a vow I intended to keep. "I'll be better. I'll be here. Always." And in that strange, herbal-scented kitchen, surrounded by vegetables that had once seemed absurd, a quiet transformation began, not of wealth or status, but of a father reclaiming his place in the life of his son. I held Liam against my chest, feeling the warmth of his little body pressing against me, and yet the tension in the kitchen remained thick, like a storm cloud refusing to break. Yvette's eyes met mine, unwavering and resolute, silently daring me to confront the truth I had avoided for far too long. "Sit down, Mr. Callahan," she said firmly, gesturing toward the dining chairs. Her voice was calm, but beneath it lay the kind of authority only someone who had been bearing responsibility could possess. I set Liam on my lap, still wrapped in a soft towel, and sank into the chair, feeling every ounce of my pride and guilt collide. "You've been gone over a month," she began, her tone measured, almost cutting. "And not a single word from you. No calls, no messages, nothing. You left this house, this child, in my hands, and you think a surprise return can undo that? Do you even understand what he's been through without you?" I flinched at her words, each one striking me harder than the last. She wasn't accusing me blindly. She was laying bare my failures, the emotional absences I had justified as necessary. I didn't know what to do, I admitted, my voice rough. After Amelia passed, I couldn't face him. Every time I thought about seeing Liam, I felt a wall inside me crumble. I thought that if I stayed away, I could protect myself from the pain. Yvette shook her head slowly, the frustration in her expression clear, but tempered with understanding. "Protect yourself? And what about him? He's been crying, calling for his father, and you fled. You didn't protect him. You abandoned him when he needed you most." The words cut deeper than I expected, and I felt my throat tighten. My hands gripped Liam a little tighter, as if the physical connection could anchor me amidst the storm of guilt. I didn't think about that. I was so lost in my own grief. I thought my presence would hurt him because I couldn't stop crying. Yvette stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on my arm. "You think absence hides grief? You think it shields him from pain? No, sir. Every tear you refuse to shed in front of him, every moment you spend away, he felt it. He felt your absence like a cold draft in this house. And I tried to fill that gap, the best way I knew how." I swallowed hard, trying to reconcile the image of Liam in the pot with the words Yvette spoke. The absurdity of the situation melted away, leaving only the raw truth. My son had suffered emotionally in my absence, and Yvette had been his anchor. I can't believe I let it get this far. I thought I was doing the right thing by working, by providing, but I see now, money isn't enough. Nothing I've earned can replace me being here. Yvette's eyes softened, but there was a firmness that demanded I understand the gravity of my failures. You need to stop hiding behind your wealth, Brandon. Stop thinking you can fix everything with gifts or gestures. What he needs is you. And that doesn't come wrapped in ribbons or invoices. That comes in time, attention, consistency. Her words hit me with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Every business deal, every negotiation, every accolade had been meaningless compared to the absence I had created in my own home. You're right, I whispered, my voice breaking. I've been a coward. I let my grief dictate my actions or inaction. I abandoned the one person who needed me most, my son. Yvette nodded, her gaze unwavering. And now? She asked, her tone softening slightly. Now you have a choice. You can keep hiding, or you can show up. He doesn't need perfection. He doesn't need explanations that make sense to adults. He needs his father to be present, to feel loved, to feel safe. Are you ready for that? I looked down at Liam, who had begun to giggle softly, reaching for my face with tiny hands. My heart ached and soared at the same time. I want to be ready. I want to be the father he deserves. I don't want to miss another moment. I want to make up for the time I lost. Yvette's expression softened further, a hint of relief and cautious hope. Then show him. Not tomorrow, not after another business trip. Now, every day. And don't let grief or fear hold you back again. Being a father isn't easy, Brandon, but it's the most important job you'll ever have. Her words resonated deeply, piercing through the layers of pride and self-protection I had built around myself. I realized that my absence hadn't just hurt Liam. It had hurt me, too. The wealth, the status, the endless accolades. None of it had shielded me from the emptiness that came with avoiding my responsibilities. And now, here in this kitchen, amidst the lingering scent of herbs and vegetables, I faced a choice. Continue hiding in grief and detachment, or step into the life I had nearly destroyed with absence. That I reached out and held Yvette's hand gently, a silent acknowledgement of the months she had carried alone. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Thank you for loving him when I couldn't. Thank you for being here. I don't know how I could ever repay you for that. Yvette shook her head, a faint smile breaking through her serious demeanor. You don't need to repay me with money or gifts. Just be here. Show up. Be the father he deserves. That's enough. I nodded, feeling a wave of determination rise within me. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope, not just for myself, but for the family I had nearly abandoned. I looked down at Liam, his tiny hands clutching my shirt, his eyes full of trust and curiosity, and I realized that my presence, even after a long absence, could begin to heal the wounds I had left. I will, I whispered. I will be here. Every day? I promise. Yvette stepped back, giving us space, her role as mediator and protector finally resting in the background. The tension in the room softened, replaced by a tentative peace that felt fragile but real. I held Liam close, feeling the weight of responsibility, the gravity of my choices, and the potential for redemption. And in that moment, I understood a truth I had long avoided. Love, presence, and accountability mattered far more than money, status, or convenience. The kitchen, once the scene of absurdity and shock, had transformed into a place of reckoning and possibility. I was confronted with the consequences of my absence, and I had no one to blame but myself. Yet, within that confrontation, I found a path forward, a way to reconnect with my son, to honor the care Yvette had provided, and to step into the role I had abandoned. It wouldn't be easy. There would be moments of doubt, of fear, of grief, resurfacing. But now, unlike before, I was ready to face them, to navigate them with intention and love. That I looked at Yvette one final time, her hands folded calmly before her, and nodded. I understand. I see now. Thank you for not giving up on him. And on me. Her response was simple, yet profound. Just be here. That's all he and you need. With that, she returned to her tasks, leaving us to begin the slow, deliberate process of rebuilding what I had neglected. Holding Liam, I felt the first stirrings of hope, the tentative possibility that, even after failure, Love could guide the way back. I carried Liam into the living room, his tiny fingers curling around mine as if he sensed the shift in me. Every step I took felt heavier and lighter at the same time, heavy with the weight of my past mistakes, light with the possibility of redemption. The afternoon sunlight spilled through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floor. I could hear Yvette in the background, tidying quietly, but she no longer hovered. She had done her part, and now it was mine to step into the space I had neglected for far too long. I sat on the couch, letting Liam rest against my chest, feeling his soft breath on my skin. I realized, in that quiet moment, that I had missed so much. His laughter, his tiny sighs, the subtle cues that made him uniquely Liam. "I'm sorry, buddy," I whispered, brushing a soft strand of hair from his forehead. "I missed a lot, didn't I?" His wide eyes blinked at me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a connection unbroken by work or grief. The realization hit me with both clarity and sorrow. No amount of money or luxury could replace these moments. Yvette had kept him alive in more ways than one, yet the moments that mattered most to his first laugh after Amelia passed, the way he reached for comfort when scared were mine to witness and cherish now. "I promise you I'll never miss this again," I continued, my voice catching. "Not for work, not for anything. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Over the next hours, I focused entirely on him, observing the smallest gestures, how he wriggled when intrigued, how his eyes tracked the sunlight across the floor, and how he pressed against me when unsure. Every detail reminded me of the absence I had allowed, and with each reminder, my determination to repair our bond strengthened. I talked to him gently, narrating my return, my regrets, and my hopes for us. "You've been so brave while I was gone," I said. "Yvette told me everything. I should have been here. But now, we'll do this together, okay?" He gurgled. In response, tiny arms reaching toward my face, and I laughed quietly, a mixture of relief, joy, and lingering guilt. Later, Yvette returned, carrying a tray with a small snack for Liam. She placed it on the low table and smiled at the sight of us. "He's warming up to you," she observed, her tone lighter now. The tension from earlier melted into quiet approval. I nodded, still holding Liam, realizing how much I had underestimated the trust between a caretaker and a child. "I know," I said, "and I know it's because of you. You didn't just care for him, you protected him from my absence, and I'm grateful beyond words." Yvette shook her head modestly. "I just did what anyone who loved Amelia would have done. But now he has you. That's what matters." Her words lingered, reminding me of the delicate balance of responsibility and love. I realized that redemption wouldn't come from grand gestures or expensive toys. It would come from consistency, presence, and honest emotional engagement. I had to face my grief, yes, but I had to do it alongside Liam, not in isolation. The thought was daunting, yet for the first time, it felt manageable because I wasn't alone anymore. As the evening drew on, I bathed Liam properly this time, Yvette guiding me through the process, offering advice with a patience that humbled me. I learned to notice the subtle cues of his comfort and discomfort, adjusting water temperature, and gently applying the lotion the pediatrician had recommended. Each movement was a lesson in connection, in presence, in being a father rather than a distant observer. Yvette watched from a distance, her gaze soft but vigilant, ensuring that Liam was safe while giving me the room to step fully into my role. After his bath, I dressed him in soft pajamas and carried him to the playroom, where small toys and books were neatly arranged. Liam's eyes lit up, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I laughed freely with him, chasing giggles across the carpet, letting the weight of the last month dissolve in the simplicity of play. I caught myself marveling at how much joy could exist in these tiny moments, and how foolish I had been to trade presents for wealth. Each laugh, each squeal of delight, became a small step toward healing not just for him, but for me as well. Night fell, and the house settled into quiet. I sat in the rocking chair, Liam in my arms, feeling the rhythmic rise and fall of his chest against me. The room was bathed in soft lamplight, and Yvette quietly brought in a cup of tea, placing it on the side table before giving me a small, approving nod. "You're doing well," she whispered. "He needed this, and you're giving it to him." Don't let the world pull you away again. I nodded, understanding fully that her words were both caution and encouragement. I won't, I said firmly. This is where I belong now. I held Liam close as he drifted to sleep, his tiny body warm and trusting against me. The absurdity of the silver pot earlier in the day had faded into symbolism. The chaotic, imperfect ways in which love can manifest, the necessity of trust, and the realization that presence and care outweighed any material comfort. I realized that while I could never reclaim the moments I had missed, I could shape every moment moving forward. And that was more than enough to begin rebuilding the trust one had almost destroyed. Yvette watched me silently, her role as guardian of Liam's emotional well-being complete for now, and I finally felt a sense of peace. I knew there would be challenges ahead, moments of fear, tears, and doubt, but I also knew I would face them alongside my son, guided by love, responsibility, and the memory of the lessons Yvette had imparted. I whispered again, barely audible, "I'll never leave you like that again. I'm here. I'm yours." Liam's small hand curled around my finger, sealing the promise in a way that words never could. The night ended with a quiet understanding between all of us. I had returned home unannounced, expecting perhaps a simple reunion, yet I had discovered the depth of my failings and the power of true presence. Liam slept peacefully in my arms, the trust slowly knitting between us, and Yvette gave a soft, approving smile before retreating. I realized, with clarity and humility, that love and attention were the true measures of success, not wealth, status, or distance traveled. I had faced the consequences of my absence, confronted my grief, and begun to rebuild the relationship that mattered most. And in that quiet, herbal-scented home, the first real steps of redemption had begun. Moral lesson. Today's story reminds us that wealth and status cannot replace the simple, profound act of showing up for those we love. True presence, being physically and emotionally available, is more powerful than any gift or material comfort. We saw how Brandon, despite his immense wealth, had neglected his son during a time when love and attention mattered most. Yvette's dedication illustrates the quiet heroism in caregiving and the importance of trusting those who nurture others when we fail to be there. Grief and fear may tempt us to hide, but avoidance only deepens wounds for everyone involved. Redemption comes not through grand gestures, but through accountability, consistent care, and the courage to reconnect with those we have hurt. For every parent, guardian, or loved one watching, the lesson is clear. Presence is priceless. Love cannot be bought, and rebuilding trust requires patience, honesty, and action. Let this story inspire you to show up, stay engaged, and treasure every moment with the people who matter most. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with friends, and comment your thoughts and lessons learned.